Good afternoon, everyone. It's a good late afternoon. We have very good panelists who will be joining us. Our topic would be sustainable, how to sustain the business in this time of pandemic. May I introduce to you first Jim Guzman of Densu. Hello, Jim.
Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Then let's have Stefano Fazzini. I hope I got that right.
Hi, good afternoon.
Then let's have Sudhir.
And good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Looks good
good
morning.
evening, everyone.
Hello, Sudhir.
Good evening, JJ.
Yes. So it's actually good morning to another part of the world, Stefano.
Yeah,
It's
I think I'm in a different time zone.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Then let's have David Abrenilia.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hello. It's a
Thank
nice.
you for having me.
Yes. Anyway, okay. Anyway, we're pressed for time. I'll just be as direct to everybody. Um, I'll be doing some taglish that we can cover a bigger audience for this topic because it's quite relevant at the time of pandemic. Jim, I just want to ask you, has the consumer behavior changed? And what's your take on the influencers changing the consumer behavior online?
Yeah, I mean, well, let me take your first question. Definitely, I think everyone in this virtual room will agree that the spending habits of consumers have changed significantly. And similar to our lives, everything was put on hold. I mean, like you know how like the last time I went to a mall, well, the past month I've been, little by little visiting the mall. But prior to that, the last one was 8 or 7 months ago. So even in terms of my consumer habits, like my habits in terms of shopping, it has also changed significantly. But if you look at the spending habits, I think right now people are excited to spend, but still very careful. Although it's good that we see hyper e-growth, like people are really getting accustomed to buying online. Like last night, I slept at 2 in the morning, just looking at new stuff that I can buy in Lazada or Shopee. So very interesting. As you know, connection is on steroids right now because of work from home, because of everything. Very interesting also how the spending habits move towards spending for our homes rather than for the kind of life that we used to have outside. And that's why we're calling it in the agency COVID cocooning, like everything that you do now in your daily life, from exercise to preparing your food, well, everything is now done at home. So very interesting how we will see and monitor how these things will continue or probably shift a bit as we enter into what we call a blue Christmas. Not just because of the pandemic, but even with so many things that have happened in the country. Well, to your other question, JJ, quite interesting also how this has affected the lives of a lot of creators and influencers. So good that you asked me that question because currently I sit as the founding president of the Creator and Influencer Council of the Philippines, and we've been tackling a lot of these issues that also that our creators and influencers are facing. Well, obviously, their playground has been limited to their homes as they too got stuck in their respective houses. So I think what is very noticeable and to be fair, admirable in how these creators and influencers thrived in this pandemic is it really pushed their creativity to the next level. Like how can they continue creating content within the four corners of their houses and still engage and entertain their audience. I think that's kind of the role that they've pretty much played in this pandemic, which we thank all of them for. At least we have a lot of options for entertainment. Well, considering also that ABS-CBN was defranchised, and then they were also very instrumental in terms of really driving information dissemination and trying for us, all of us, to adjust to this. As I hate calling it as such, but new normal. Yeah. So there.
A lot of people are trying to get to be an influencer, and do all influencers convert?
Well, of course, as you know, to become an influencer, it takes a lot. It takes time to get there. I mean, when I say there, meaning the time when you get to monetize your quote unquote influence. So I agree with you. Like, influencers or creators or vloggers mushroomed in the last 7 months. TikTok alone, for example, from 6 million or 3 million start of the year to now almost 20 million towards the end of the year. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what really grew significantly the past several months.
Okay, given that, I would think that um, people are really spending a lot now, right? If there are about 20 million trying to be influencers,
Mhm.
maybe Stefano can maybe attest to this. Stefano, has spending gone up tremendously? And what are the priority spending that you see in the past few
Um,
months?
yeah, that's correct. So spending, I mean, I guess for daily essentials, spending has gone up. During the pandemic because people need their necessities delivered, right? And I think areas where it's non-essential, spending has gone down. So in our case, in Metromart, our orders have spiked up tremendously, especially pre-lockdown, well, pre and post-lockdown, and it's main, but it's mainly on toilet paper. No, I'm joking. Um, no, yeah, it's
That's all over the world,
has affected
Stefano. The
positively.
toilet paper. The
Yeah,
toilet
exactly.
paper is all over the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think consumer spending generally has gone down, but in groceries, it has positively increased. Yeah.
Okay, but the influencers, do you see them? That is there like you see a spike when an influencer says, "Hey, I just bought this. Yes, let's go buy the toilet paper. This toilet paper,
Ah,
unboxing it. Do you see a spike?"
well, you know what? I have different thoughts because with some influencers, they are effective in terms of branding and awareness. But what we're seeing is that influencer marketing is not really for conversion into transactions, but more for the branding opportunity. But obviously, the conversions go up if the influencer aligns more to your brand. So if I were to get an influencer, for example, that is a mom with several kids and has been curating her profile according to that demographic, then that would be more effective. But if you have an influencer that essentially is a mom with kids as well, but has not been properly curating that profile to attract that specific demographic, let's say has been posting for various promotions or needs, then that wouldn't be so targeted, right? So I think it really depends on your strategy. Getting a big group of influencers to do marketing for you is great for awareness, but if you really want to convert them into transactions, you need to be very specific and strategic as to who you pick.
Okay, can we just go back to the essentials? What do you think are essentials for you that you see that maybe for us it's not, but with your data you've gathered, what are the essentials for this one?
You mean in the groceries, like the
Yeah,
grocery
exactly,
essentials?
exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we saw a big spike in beverages, fruits,
Oh,
vegetables, um, and obviously household essentials, right? So like the toilet paper, but it's also cleaning material. Um, like
I'm guilty. I'm guilty. The cleaning materials, I have all of them stuck in my house.
yeah, correct. So anything related to cleaning, but also sanitization. Um, for example, like alcohol was a very big seller during the lockdown. We got fully booked for our pharmacies, like South Star Drug, for example, for people ordering alcohol. Um, and but they were out of stock at the store. But in the supermarket, they still had a bit of stock. But sanitization was the top product that was ordered, I guess, during the height of the pandemic. Now it's starting to slow down because those stocks are available. But for daily essentials, I guess that pertain to health, those are starting to maintain.
Okay. So given that, maybe I could go and ask the Sudhir for how do you answer to the demand? Do you see people don't mind location as to where they get their items? Do you see cross city deliveries happening?
Um, well, recently, just as Stefano mentioned as well, there really has been a major spike into essentials, and uh, that includes ready-to-eat food. Uh, I believe every one of us have seen small or micro entrepreneurs budding budding up and growing out of the need, especially during the initial phases of the lockdown during March, April, and May. And there has been a lot of uh, uh, homegrown chefs, so to speak, uh, that have come up, and that's one of the major clientele we've been having. Uh, Another segment is, of course, people uh, doing online trading of the very newly considered essentials like the alcohol, masks, so the PP suits. Uh, these have been also a big surge, more than the other basic goods. So there are a lot of people suddenly trading, buying, selling. And yes, in terms of spending for logistics, previously they would probably compute, it costs this much to deliver, it costs that much to deliver. Right now, everything being sold is, for example, if I'm a homegrown seller for whatever essential products, they don't compute anymore or they don't add the logistics cost or delivery cost. The consumer is understood he has to pay whatever they book for or whatever the logistics cost is, because they compute it as a safety measure in
And it's
exchange.
convenient,
Yeah,
right?
and convenience, of
And
course.
I don't mind. Like I get some of my essentials. Food to me is essential. So
Yes,
the sushi king and all that became essential to me. So I don't mind buying them from outside Pasig,
mm,
and the
correct.
cost and to me the cost of delivering it to my house doesn't matter anymore. So do you see
Correct.
that as a thing to most?
Yes, even certain restaurants have started sort of like takeout packages,
Yes, frozen
right?
ones.
Frozen ones. Yeah, I mean, big names in the fast food industry, even they are selling on the groceries, which of course Stefano can attest to, and every one of us as consumers, we do see them now. And then, so these have been the changes that I see, and obviously, to be able to bring them to the supermarkets or vice versa, supermarkets. Uh, Being able to pick it up from them, or even there are sellers even selling them directly. uh, Logistics is needed on every part, so this has been the growth and the demand recently
And
as
you
well.
think this will stay? Do you think
Sorry.
honestly? Do you think this behavior will stay even if there is a vaccine available in the market?
uh, I believe so, because psychologically speaking, if we are told to
Automatic.
done something in a certain way for X number of weeks or months, it becomes a habit.
That's true. It becomes a
You know,
new stuff. That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
it becomes the so-called norm or new normal. That's why I believe it's going to continue on, and in fact, it's going to get, basically, it's a new way of bringing more convenience to the consumers.
Yeah. Then maybe that's maybe my this would be my next question, and this is directed to David. David, they've always been in the traditional business, doing events, gathering a lot of people in one venue. That has changed. That stopped, right? So are you shifting to digital? Are you embracing the new normal? And maybe this is going to be relevant to a lot of people in our audience, wherein they don't know how to shift, how to pivot. How are you doing it right now?
Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for this question. Yeah, like many other businesses, the first reaction I would say was like shock. Right? You were kind of like in a shock moment, and like a lot of other businesses, we kind of like had to slow down the spending. All our events was canceled for the year, and we also had to listen first, like how our clients are feeling about the situation. And of course, a lot of businesses were suffering. Not all of them were already digitally, let's say, connected with websites and all these things in order to transition their sales and their processes to go online. But now, like looking back at it now, 8 months, a lot. I would say the winners here are the ones that were able to adapt to the situation. I believe that for a lot of businesses, the wishing of like going back to the old normal, they have to kind of like stop thinking that way because, Sabir was already saying a while ago, we are being conditioned already right now. You see, even if the malls are open and so forth, people are not automatically going in, and that will not happen that fast. Also, the consumer confidence has changed already. People are adopting to buy online. They're already in that sphere. So a lot of businesses need to adapt into it as well. So for us as a business, we are now working with our clients to create new events, but also to create new platforms for them to be able to say that this digital transformation will be there to stay. And yeah, it's not always the biggest that will win, but it's the one that can dream big, dream big, small steps, but move fast.
Yeah, I think yeah, but that's good. I think everybody should have a digital mindset right now. Um, but I
Yeah,
think
it's also important. It's also important to mention that you will make mistakes along the way.
yeah,
It's not there. Your thought should not be to make everything perfect, because as you're adopting, you will commit mistakes, but you will learn from them. But that's why
that's
like
good.
small steps, but move fast, learn, make the mistakes as fast as possible, and then recoup from it, and then move forward.
I agree.
Because
I
now
agree.
now now it's a new landscape for a lot of businesses also to compete, to
Yeah,
win new market shares. And now it's the time, to win your passion, to really embrace the why you're doing the things that you're doing as an entrepreneur, and go and conquer.
yeah, that's good. I think that we can close with that. But before we do, please, I encourage all our audience to send in their questions, and would gladly answer them. But let me close with this. Something that I want everybody to take on is one is the behavior change. The essentials that we thought weren't essentials have become essential. Convenience is key to spending. I think if there's anything about this, and Cynthia said it perfectly, it's the convenience is what matters most, right, at this point. And the attitude of not giving up and just adapting and being creative to how we can adapt to change. I think that closes it. Thank you, everybody. I think this is such a wonderful panel um, group, and I hope that our audience would learn from it, and I encourage them to ask, and so we can answer them. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jim, Stefano, Sudhir, and David.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you,
Thank you,
everyone. Take
JJ.
care.
Yeah.
Be safe.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this panel on how to effectively start a strategic pivot in this time of a pandemic. It's my privilege and pleasure and honor to have guests today who are experts in this arena and who've been able to help themselves and others successfully navigate this change. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests, Kieran Martin of Index Asia.
Hello, Kieran Martin of Index. So we are an advisory firm. We've been helping for the last 5 years now. Companies in the Philippines. We focus on cross-border transactions, so helping funds from abroad to come in the Philippines, or companies from abroad to also come in the Philippines and look for local financing, equity, and debt. So regarding the situation, I think the pandemic has been is one of the most challenging period of economy-wise that we've met. I saw a report even yesterday that expects the GDP to fall down by 9% this year, which is quite massive instead of a 9% growth or 7% growth. So basically, it's quite a reverse trend compared to what we used to live in the Philippines for the last few years. It has some impacts directly on jobs, of course, but also founders. That's one of the discussions that they always have to take is during the crisis when you don't have the revenues. The simple impact that is taken is reducing the cost. I think that's one major. But again, like crises like those ones are the best moment also to reinnovate. And I guess that's where the real actions comes into play. Should I explain some examples or?
No, I think for now, Kieran, that's a great way to jump right into the topic. And now I'd like to introduce the other member of the panel, Brian Yap, Group CEO of the Republic Group of Companies. Brian, good to see you, man.
Hi, nice to see you too.
Hey, Brian.
Um,
It'd be great if you just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what Republic Group of Companies is
sure.
doing.
I'm Brian. I run Republic Group of Companies. We're actually digital transformation agency. So we do a lot of different things. We do development. We also do a lot of social media marketing. We also do a lot of influencer marketing and everything. But we're surprisingly actually based in Cebu. But we do have different clients from both Visayas, Luzon, and Mindanao.
Fantastic. And I just want to ask you both because I know that this has been a long and tough road for many, many businesses, including your own. I just like to zero in on in your business. When did you realize that things will have to change because of everything that was happening? Brian, why don't you begin? Like, if you could just think about at what point in time, what moment did you realize this is different from other business situations we faced before?
For one, when actually the pandemic hit, I think it hit actually on the first quarter. We kind of knew the virus was actually there, but business really got hurt on the second quarter of this year. Me and the team actually had to huddle because some of our clients who were in the tourism industry were actually highly affected. Being an agency, we also mount a lot of physical events. Which when the GCQ actually happened, physical events were actually banned. So we had to huddle. So we had to. Good thing, some of our FMCG client were actually doing well. So they increased their budget in terms of ad spending. For some of our client that actually got hit in terms of the restaurant, we had to find solutions on how to actually help their business, meaning arming them with online delivery, selling, taking them to e-commerce. In a way, it actually kind of accelerated the digital transformation. That's one. For our department that actually did physical events and we had to actually do physical shoot, that department took us about 3 months to actually retool and reskill. What do I mean? So now we actually do a lot of live shoots and live events. Even the conference that we did last year called Bicon was actually focused on influencer we had 1,500 in that event, but now we this year we did it virtually, so everything was actually virtual. It even gotten better. It's even gotten better because we hit the market for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We even got more creators and speakers to be part of the panel. Last year we had 30. This year we had 108. So in a way, it was good. It was good. It was good. So we were able to pivot. And third quarter, and I think last quarter of this year, surprisingly, our targets were actually we kind of exceeded in a way. So it became better.
Okay, fantastic. So early on, you saw waves. It didn't happen all at once. Some industries were hit harder than others, faster than others. There might even be some that you don't feel are affected now, and some that are
Yeah.
doing much better. Excellent. And Kieran, for yourself, what is the moment in your business and for your clients? How did this, the event unfold for you guys?
Yeah, so I think one interesting view we had is that between the Philippines and Vietnam, where our other office is, the effects were absolutely not the same. So Vietnam was pretty much seamless, like nobody really felt any crisis. It's not so true, but really limited. Whereas in the Philippines, honestly, it's quite strong. The impact of the pandemic. For my business, particularly, the difficulty is, as I mentioned, we are focusing on cross-border activities, and at the moment, it's quite complicated to travel. So, of course, it limits the potential of investors to come in the Philippines and physically, and of course, to invest eventually. So since mid-March to still now people start to be able to come for some reason, but it's very challenging. So that is an immediate effect in terms of foreign ownership, foreign investment. That's a direct one. In terms of operation, however, I think it was really the best moment to redefine strategies and to really dig down in the forecast a bit as we discussed earlier. It's really important to really know your numbers right and take the decisions for the benefit of the company. So I think there a lot of focus was made on that, waiting for borders to open again. That's yeah, that's again, that's more for my client already. Now, regarding just my firm personally, yeah, we switched a bit our service as well. Instead of just doing purely equity investments, we switched a bit to that, and we did a bit of strategy, which was not a big focus of ours before.
Understood.
Um,
Yeah. And if we can build on what you're saying, Martin, Kieran, because I'm thinking about a bunch of M's, right? So you highlighted it earlier that one of the things that businesses have to do in these kinds of situations is really revisit their business model. And I'll just throw it out there. One of the other things that the other two key elements that I think we need to look at are, besides the business models, the corresponding market where you're going to go, right? And then the manpower or resources that you have in order to tackle that. So, picking up on your conversation, Martin, I'd love to hear more about some practical business model changes that you've helped some of the people that you've worked with on, so that others can see live examples, if that's all right.
Yes, of course. Well, I won't disclose the names, even if you might know them, but just for the sake of it. So basically, I think one example that I spent during the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, time on, was really a company that had both retail, so offline and online activities, and of course, when the retail got shut, you lose 70% of your revenues, and you don't necessarily, especially at that time, we didn't know how long it would last. We still don't know, but we didn't think it would last that long. So of course, you don't want to take early decisions, like especially regarding people involved in your business. So the primer strategy is to put back the revenues to its prior level with the distribution channel that is available, which is e-commerce. So there were some logistics issues at the beginning, but anyway, I think one big interesting part on the switch is that the business model for e-commerce is somehow more profitable than retail because you don't necessarily need to pay them all. That's as simple as that. If you have your own website, so you save like 30% revenues, which is quite huge. So you don't necessarily, what it means eventually is you don't necessarily need to hit the same revenues to get the same bottom line. So this is a good intention was to really boost the revenues. We eventually ended up thinking about the bottom line. So this is a good example of what you can adjust during a pandemic and at the beginning by doing a bit of research. I think I summarize it here, so anybody can just do it. It's just a matter of setting your priorities right. What do you think you can achieve? One big reason why we decided also to switch towards bottom line to focus on the bottom line is because of the market, like you mentioned. There was a big boom in demand from users. They were all starting to order online, but it's still not quite what the offline market provides, and especially in the province, people are not so savvy yet about usage of those technologies. Especially, our age is very familiar with those things, but not everyone. So there's a transition from the demand. However, the demand might stay there. So I think that's why it's interesting to see what are the growth on those distribution channel like e-commerce, and where are the markets evolving. That's one interesting part, let's say.
Excellent, Kieran. And Brian, on your side, were there some other evolutions in your business model across the many kinds of businesses that you're working with?
Actually, if you really look at it, when the pandemic actually hit, digital consumption really spiked, and I think that that's really one of the reason that internet in the Philippines kind of got even much lower. We even saw a lot of because we manage content creator and influencers. They started creating content online. Their views actually got bigger than the usual, and I think most of the people are actually at home, not doing anything. They can't go to bars anymore. They can't actually go with friends. So what they can actually do is actually consume content online, whether it's going to be Netflix, YouTube, or Instagram stories or things on Facebook. So for one, we kind of highly encourage a lot of our brands that we actually work with instead of spending more money on traditional advertising, which it's very hard to for it to work now, to actually spend more money on digital. Just in a way, there's kind of a major shift of behavior. Even in terms like in Cebu's perspective, we see a lot of online buying happening, not even just on a platform, but even in groups, even in dark social, like Facebook group, Viber group, like even my pairings being very traditional has actually shifted to every day we have deliveries at home with my mom and dad, seeing things on Viber. Oh, he got a fruit, he saw something in a fruit, he knew what to actually buy there. My parents also shifted from watching traditional TV from ABS-CBN to actually getting a Xiaomi TV, focusing on watching the Netflix, news on YouTube now, or even on Facebook. So there is a major shift in terms of behavior. And I really think when actually get things normalized, some of these behaviors will actually stick, right? So in encouragement, these are some of the things we kind of told our brands that they work at. These are the change of behavior. Your business model should actually shift to where the attention has actually changed in a way. So even like hospitality, most of the hospitality spends a lot of money more on billboards. they rarely spend, or they actually work with the OTAs. They rarely spend money on driving traffic directly to their website. So now I think this is kind of a wake up call that they actually should invest on their own website in terms of traffic, not just being reliant on OTAs, or not just being reliant on billboards.
Understood. Thanks for that, Brian, highlighting that, in a pandemic or any tough situation, the first step is really don't panic, pause, and then start observing what's going on. And the model and the market are very intimately tied to each other because they have to be a fit. Otherwise, you're just going to run into more friction, right? I think one of the challenges I think we've seen is that a lot of people in the scenario just try anything to see what sticks because they're very worried and anxious, right? Um, and with that being said, after you've changed your model and looked at the market and made adjustments, one of the tougher things to change are human beings. So I'd love to hear
Yes.
your thoughts, Brian, on what it was like working with your people, your clients, in dealing with the changes that needed to happen for everyone to have a chance of succeeding.
I think in terms of our internal organization, it wasn't really that hard to change. And I think when we started the company, oh, no, we started the company 5, 6 years ago, but 3 years ago we made a decision to actually focus on internal culture. So one of our internal culture that we kind of focus on is thinking like a startup, meaning be ready for changes. Like in the next, for example, um, in less than 1 month, we were able to shuffle our team to 100%, working from home. We're basically 70 people, but everybody adjusted to working from home. We had to reshuffle our people in terms of position. We never fired anybody. That's something that I'm very proud of. During pandemic, we never fired anybody. We had to retool and reskill them, and we kind of told them, guys, we don't have a choice. You have to learn new things now. You have to learn new skills for us to be able to adapt to what's happening. So it wasn't really that hard for an internal change to actually happen. What was a bit of a challenge is when you actually work with traditional companies or other clients that doesn't have that mindset or doesn't have that culture. So it took quite a while for a back and forth. It took quite a while for us to present them the data, to really accept, to really tell them that, guys, you really have to accept that this is going to be the new normal. This is not gonna come back anytime soon, right? And I told my team, like, hey guys, we're not gonna be seeing each other for, I think, for a year or 2 years. We're not gonna be able to be back in the office. So when the team was able to accept it earlier, they were it was much more easier for them to adapt. For some of our clients, some of our partners, it took time. It really kind of took time that we have to really give them the data. But good thing now they kind of accepted it, um, and it becomes easier. And I really think the first thing there is really acceptance that this is the new normal. It's not gonna come back anytime soon. In a way,
Nostalgia doesn't do anything for us. Fair enough.
yeah.
At this point, I'd like to encourage our audience to come. Please share your questions in the chat so we can engage in a discussion right after. And with that, Kieran, I'd love to hear your take on um, the cultural changes and the human changes that you had to manage because business at the end of the day is personal. There are people involved. It's not just moving the numbers around, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge during the pandemic because of the the work from home, which is changing the company culture. I think it's harder to implement. In terms of performance, at the beginning, it was maybe even better. People were happy to save on time on the, but eventually you don't really. It's hard to keep a company like, really pushing. So that was a challenge. But um, but yeah, getting used to it's the new normal. So I guess we all find ways.
Okay. So I think in this discussion, we've covered quite a lot. Picking up from where Brian and Kieran took off, we actually, when facing a pandemic, first have to look at your mindset and accept the new reality and plan for the future. Do the math, assess what resources you have, and then start looking at the business models and market changes and making the adjustments. Um, and then, of course, figure out what you need to do to make the money that you need to survive. With that, any last minute tips and thoughts, Kira and Brian, about how to tackle things moving forward?
Hmm.
Kieran? Oh, Brian?
Go on.
Okay. For one, I think this is really the best time to start something. I mean, like, with a lot of changes that's been happening, it's a reset of the economy, right? So, and really the best. There's a lot of problems that needs to be tackled more than ever. Even us as an internal company, we're building products in preparation for 2021. My advice to the startups here is basically accept that this is the new normal. It's faster to move forward if you actually accept it, but this is really the best time to build something because everything is on a reset.
Amen. Kieran?
Yeah. No, honestly, it's a good advice. I definitely agree on that. And maybe it's the right time to also focus on the priorities. I guess the effect was not as strong in Manila, but in Europe especially, a lot of people moved away from the cities to benefit from the work from home opportunity. So innovation at company level and personal level is definitely ongoing at the moment.
Fantastic. So, in a pandemic, don't panic, pause, prioritize, and pivot. So, thank you, gentlemen, very much for this discussion. I think our audience learned quite a lot, as did I.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our next track. And this track is all about strengthening social impact while anchoring on brand strength. Uh, what is this all about? Um, this is about how our entrepreneurs have built their brands to stand tall and firm so that amidst the waves of this pandemic, they're still there, standing. No? And it's not just about strength. Brands are also all about resiliency. It's about being able to bend but not breaking. It's about still being flexible and firm. So we have a very exciting discussion because we have some of the best startup brands with us. And with that, let me start introducing our panelists. First, let me call on the managing director of Lala Move. We have with us Dan Maharokon. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Angel.
Hello. Next, we have the founder of Rafi Kimono. We have Rafi Simon. Hi, Rafi.
Hello, how are you? Nice to be here with everybody this evening.
And we're so happy you're here, Rafi. And then lastly, we have the president and CEO of Bambike. We have Brian McClelland. Hi, Brian.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you, Angel, Rafi, and Dan.
Hi.
Hello. So guys, we're going to discuss all about your brands, how you started your brands, and more importantly, just like what they all say, we may not be all in the same boat, but we're all in the same storm. So we're going to talk about how your brands have remained strong and firm and resilient in this pandemic. So before that, let's hear from Dan. Dan, tell us more about Lala Move first and, a bit about how your brand story has been incepted.
Okay. Well, for those that aren't familiar with Lala Move is an on-demand.
Oh, there's no one who's not familiar with Lala Move.
It's an on-demand delivery service provider. Okay, here. We have motorcycles all the way to trucks, delivering anywhere in the Greater Manila area and in Metro Cebu. Right. Of course, it's a delivery service provider, pretty straightforward. Ever since the pandemic started, everyone had to stay home. Therefore, delivery became even more relevant. But let me backtrack a little bit as to why Lala Move and how Lala Move started. right? We started a couple of years ago here in the Philippines. Our mission, ever since we began, has always been to empower the communities that we serve. So essentially, we have two I guess bases, right? We have our users, which are business users, the MSMEs, SMEs, enterprises in the Philippines, who all need delivery services to get the goods to their end customers, right? The other side, which is typically not prioritized in this in the industry where I am in, but is something that Lala Move is absolutely obsessed with, is the partner drivers, right? So serving these two communities has always been at the core of what every single thing that Lala Move does. The empowerment of businesses, the empowerment of drivers. When the pandemic hit, of course, it wasn't just about enablement of businesses. That's, I guess, something that's business as usual for us because that's what we do. Right. But the
Mhm.
opportunity that came about with this pandemic is that we were able to help people get more jobs. So we were able to help businesses run. We were also able to give people a means to earn. So how do we do this, right? On the Lala Move side, we established Lala Jeep in partnership with the Quezon City local government. So what Lala Jeep does is it enables displaced GP drivers that can no longer ply the roads to transport people to allow them to deliver. So this is a collaboration between public and private, right? Public being the Quezon City local government, MMDA, LTFRB, and Lala Move, and of course the jeepney drivers. So that's something that's one of my favorite projects. It's still ongoing. We're looking forward to expand to more cities, right? On the Lala Food side, right? Lala Food is also a brand under Lala Move. We also had a partnership with the Department of Labor to give jobs to people that have lost their employment by Dole giving them bikes and Lala Food giving them a job as a delivery biker. Fantastic, right? We also
Mhm.
have Lala Move Automotive. So on the automotive side, what it does is essentially people who cannot enter Lala Move because they don't have an existing vehicle can actually partner with us so that we can help them with financing. We can help them get discounts. Because right now we're in the middle of a recession and it's very hard to get a loan, right? So what this does is it enables these people that don't have vehicles to get a vehicle and earn through deliveries through Lala Move. So all of these
Okay.
is definitely culminating back into what we really aspire to do here in the Philippines.
Yeah, and what I see there is coming from that Lala brand name, everything is just so strategic as how you have expanded yourself, particularly in answering to the challenges of this pandemic, right? We'll get more into that, Dan, later, okay? Next, I want to hear from Rafi. You know what, Rafi? Interestingly, exactly a year ago, I encountered Rafi Kimono in Manila Fame. And I was telling myself, oh my God, I will be using that one of these days when I go to a party. But Rafi, we're
Oh,
in lockdown. How am I even going to be able to engage with
yes.
Rafi Kimono at this time? Can you
What
share us
that?
more about what Rafi Kimono is all about now?
Yes, Angel. Thank you so much for asking and for me to be here. It's great. We were at Manila Fame last year after 8 months of being starting as a company. So we started off making loungewear, sort of a very versatile kimonos for people to wear. And, all of our marketing was on a beach or going through Europe or doing something that's somewhere else. And then lockdown hit. And so we said, okay, well, what do? We have to change our messaging. It's loungewear. It's Rafiki Mono at home. It's, me cleaning the toilet and my girlfriend watching the shower. We've created actually our showroom, which is also our home, into a full-on studio. We have backdrops for photo shoots and lights. And because of COVID, we've just had to do everything in house. And it's been actually really amazing to do that. And then COVID happened, and there was 3 weeks where there was no orders. We were very, very scared. And then where we have our production, there's other brands who produce at the same place, and everybody else had stopped. So there was a lot of ladies who were quarantining together who work for us and work for other brands who now didn't have jobs. So we just decided to start making masks to donate when this happened, because what else was there to do? Sean's sister, my partner, works at the hospital, and they didn't have masks. I think after the eruption in Taal in January, there was a mass shortage in general in Manila. And
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, we just spent the beginning part of lockdown not having any sales and just making masks. But then April and May came and our messaging changed, and Shopee wasn't working, Lazada wasn't working, Zalora was closed, but Rafiki Mono was open. And because we always used delivery services like Lala Move, and we always send a mask with all of our deliveries as well, we were able to function fully during lockdown. And also DHL was amazing because they were able to pick up, and we were sending shipments, and they were arriving in Europe in 48 hours and in the US sometimes in 36 hours. It was actually a very strange time that certain things were very, very efficient during lockdown.
Yeah.
But I could keep talking, or should I? I just want to say the one thing.
Well, I have. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Please, no,
I have
you
one
go,
very
you go.
important question also, but go ahead, Rafi. You first.
I was just going to say that we had a transition to start making masks, and the donation masks we made were similar to everybody else's with the center seam, and they had these ear things, and they were just uncomfortable. They fogged your glasses. They gave you the face, whatever. And so we thought about, how do we make an amazing mask that fits everybody's face, that has hypoallergenic bamboo microfiber on the inside, that solves all these questions. And I think we were able to find that, and we sort of have a unique style. And because we really focused on this thing that started with just trying to help people, became one of our strongest products. And it's been so cool to see something so wonderful come, for us as a business, as something that was just, pure heart, is when we started making them,
That's exactly my question, because anyone can make masks. I'm sorry to say that, but how cute or how beautiful or how unique really is a Rafi kimono mask? So you'll show that to us later, Rafi. Be ready, okay? We'll require you to show it to us. Let's go to Brian. Brian, not just for tourists, but for any Filipino who are excited to, do their trips and all that. It is iconic to have a picture on a BAM bike, right? And so every time we go to, even the students, I know for a fact, college students would go to Intramuros, do their reports, etc. They would need to have a picture with a BAM bike. But this pandemic happened. So whatever happened to your BAM bikes in Intramuros?
Yeah, so we were coming off of a couple of really good consecutive years where we were seeing really great growth. And ironically enough, while I was in quarantine, I got an email from TripAdvisor saying that we had been awarded the Traveler's Choice Award, which was, top 10% of global activities. And it was kind of like this oh well moment where we thought that the business was going to accelerate and keep doing great and we get recognition, but then we've been out of business since then. So yeah, we were very proud of what our team has been able to build and what BAM Bike represents. For those of you who don't know, we build bamboo bicycles using local labor, and it's a fair trade kind of sustainable livelihood initiative where we work with communities that farm the bamboo and then manufacture the bikes. And so, yeah, we had to do a drastic pivot, and we redeployed our BAM Bike Eco Tours fleet to the frontliners that were having trouble getting to work because of the lack of public transportation. And then, yeah, our shift has been to focus on manufacturing and selling bikes so that we could keep our people employed and working throughout this pandemic. And fortunately, I also use Lala Move to help us with our logistics because it's the most convenient, easiest, and safest way to ship bikes. And I also wear a Rafiki Mono mask to protect myself and the others around me. So it's really good to be in such great company.
Are the BAM bikes only for the local market, or have you been receiving orders also from international places, other countries?
So we do export globally as well. We've been using the major shipping providers for international shipments. And the domestic market has picked up in demand as well, which has been good to see throughout the pandemic. And also the
Okay.
focus on bike lanes and infrastructure, it's been really good for cyclists.
Okay. Rafi, I'll get on to you, but I want to say just one thing. What I noticed with the sharing of all the three of you is that you have your brand. As a startup, you came out with great brands that no matter what kind of challenge that, came to you, you're still very much strategic and keeping to the essence of your brands as you move forward, and try to meet this challenge, right? So with that, Rafi, are you ready to show us your Rafi kimono mask?
Oh
I
my
just
gosh.
want to see.
Oh my gosh. All right, hold on.
I did have them. I did ask him to be ready, right,
Well,
Dad?
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to leave the screen. I'll show you. So this is the original mask, and we actually haven't really changed it. Inside is microfiber bamboo, so it's super soft and hypoallergenic. And then there are these sort of like slidey things on the side. So you just put it over your head like this. And I usually just wear my mask like this without even tying it. But then you can just tie it. It's just a single tie. It fits on my girlfriend's face, who's half my size. It fits on people who has giant faces. There's no need for multiple ones. And then she's actually behind me, my co-founder, Boo Boo. This is a mask that she led afterwards, which is a wider ribbon. And it sort of looks like more like sort of like fashion. Like we try to make masks sort of fashionable and make them cool and comfy. And so
They're still
so
very much.
yeah.
I wear
Rafi
mine all the
kimono.
time.
I
This is-
love it.
and-
Yeah.
And they're all unique.
Thanks.
Brian is
And-
Brian is flexing over there, showing us
Yeah,
his
oh
own
my
Rafi
God,
kimono
thank you.
mask. But that's not your part, Brian. You have to show us what Bam Bike is doing at this point. Are you producing? Are you manufacturing the same kind of bikes?
Well, so we are continuing to manufacture the same kind of bikes, but this little guy here, which is what we have in our pivot for trying to bring BAM bikes to the global market at scale, is the Bambino. So the difference here is it's a bolt together style of production using engineered laminated bamboo so that we can replicate the product in larger volume. And so because before we were really just focused on tourism, now the period of lockdown has given us the time to focus on how to cater to the bike market. And because a lot of people are going to have babies after the quarantine and the kids market is growing, we want to address that. We're trying to get ahead of the game and address that.
And
For all the quarantine
behind,
babies, they're going to be riding Bambinos.
you cannot catch me speechless, Brian. I still can have a get back to that. Okay. But, behind the mask of Rafi, behind the bikes of Brian are people. And I guess that's the same, the same goes for Lala Move, right, Dan? People are the ones, empowering us to be able to still move on and make sure that we are being strong and being resilient, right? So just, could you share one by one? Let's start with Dan. How Lala Move has really impacted people? How you see your business being of help to communities? For example, you did start with that earlier. Yeah.
Well, I think that at the core of any company, not just social entrepreneurs, not just MSMEs or wherever state or stage you are in, right? At the core of it, companies need to have, I guess, a North Star of what they truly abide by, what they truly believe in. For us, it's always been for the empowerment of the communities that we serve. So with the activities that I've mentioned earlier, everything that we do goes back to that. For Lala Jeep, the empowerment of jeepney drivers. For the FreeBiz partnership with Dole, it's for also the empowerment of unemployed people. For Lala Auto, it's also for the empowerment of people that are not financially included into our traditional banking system, right? So all of these things are at the core of Lala Move's DNA. But behind all of these activities are the people that we have that are working in the back end, right? The people that we have working with Lala Move, every single one of them also believes in this. What we always talk about internally is it's while logistics has had, I would say, one of the easier times during this pandemic. It's in terms of, our business is still running. It is definitely one of the hardest periods we've ever encountered. Imagine on day one of the lockdown, orders surged 7 times the normal deliveries
I
that
could
we
imagine. Yeah, I
typically
could
do.
imagine.
So
Yeah.
rounding up drivers, etc., etc. It hasn't been easy, but we always go back to that. What is it about the things that we do that makes sense, or what makes us want to continue doing this? And that's because of the communities that we serve, right? So
Okay, and you have a fantastic team supporting these communities. Speaking of team, Rafi, is there any particular members of your team that you'd want to really show appreciation for helping Rafi Kimono still remain on top?
Well, absolutely. My co-founder is my girlfriend Sean Sager. But I want to just quickly throw this in that we started actually with our production as a social enterprise, with a group of single mothers who are Muslim living in Payatas, and it was awesome. But
Heartwarming, yeah.
the heartwarming, but the leader passed away in February, so I also wanted to say just a thanks to her. She was so important to us. But the thing about however it works is it's always about making everybody who works for us improving their lives. And if we can make sure that everybody who's touched by either Rafiki Mono is someone who receives it, and the goal is that every Rafiki Mono is your favorite piece of clothing and you wear it on your most special day, and everybody who has a part in making it, from everybody on our team, I want them to feel like their lives are better because they're part of it, so.
Oh, okay. Who has been making the bikes, Brian? Any particular great members of your team that you'd like to call out to?
Yeah, so at the heart of the company, we always say it's about people, planet, progress. And for us, that means investing in the communities
Three
where we
Ps,
have
yeah.
our stakeholders. So it's Gawad Kalinga community in Victoria, Tarlac, where it all started 10 years ago. And we really felt that we had to get back to work, in part because, they needed us to come back into action, because there is no safety buffer when you're, living wage to wage. And this long period of so many local small businesses being out of work has been incredibly hard on such a large part of the population. So by supporting local industries and by getting people back to work, we, I feel, in our tiny way, have done our part with our community. But by continuing to support other local enterprises and using services like Lala Move and buying products like Rafiki Mono, there's a downstream effect where it's really impacting more and more people. And I think that if I could give any message to all of our listeners here, especially now more than ever, we have to vote with our pesos and support the businesses that are supporting their
Exactly.
communities, because
Mhm.
it's a time of desperation and we have to be conscious of this as we move forward.
Amen.
Yeah, and the best. Yes, Rafi, you were raising your hand. You want to say?
I'm so sorry. I was really moved by what Brian said, and I totally agree. And I just wanted to add one thing. I forgot to mention that this week we've partnered up with an organization that's fantastic, but wasn't able to raise as much funds this year as they usually do, called Roots of Health. They provide reproductive health education throughout Palawan, and in rural areas, which is awesome. And they've basically created a model where they can bring education to the province. And so we have right now 20% of all of our proceeds go towards Roots of Health if you purchase at Rafiki Mono. And so it's these little things like Brian was talking about downstream, trying to find ways, like if you buy a Rafiki Mono, you also then are supporting other organizations. And it's such a nice thing. So I just want to throw that out there.
Okay, so guys, thank you. I wish we had more time. It would have been fun to really inspire our startup community of how we have started with our brands, how we have remained strong and resilient despite these challenging times. But for everyone out there, we're all on social media, right? Lala Move, Bam Bikes, Rafi Kimono. Just go there, and I'm sure everyone will be just so happy to engage with you and answer your questions. And bye, everyone. See you more. Bye,
Thank
Dan. Bye,
you.
Rafi. Bye,
Sambuhay. See you
Brian.
again soon.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
My name is Esron Dario, and I'm the founder and CEO of Impact Hub Manila. And I'd like to welcome you to our session, SustainaBIZ Playbook, remodel and recreate startup strategies amid the economic recession. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. And, it's been a really interesting past 8 months for not just for us here in the Philippines, but globally, right? I think this is one of the things that we can all share as a global community, and it's something that we all kind of are navigating towards. So I'm grateful that you're all here, and during this last few months, we've all gone through changes that we neither expected nor did we think we were ever prepared for. But then as we are entrepreneurs, we are here to hustle through and to pivot and to reimagine and redesign our businesses and the work that we get to do. Impact Hub Manila, with the aim of supporting our community here in the Philippines to be resilient and to not just survive this year, but to hopefully transition forward with even more agility than they came into the year with. We want to be able to provide opportunities such as this to be a vehicle for people to learn and to be inspired despite what's going on. So glad you could make it. Aside from that, we're here to talk about and zero in on entrepreneurs who've had to go through changes within their sphere in their companies, and we want to bring them back to you, and so we can all learn from them. We have an exciting panel, a couple of them actually, throughout this day, and we want to be able to present to you the topics that we feel is going to encompass the new normal and how it has affected our industry and the way that we work. And then now one of the things that we're very, very grateful for is to have partnerships that really support Impact Hub Manila and everything that we do. And case in point, one of the partnerships that we are truly, truly grateful for and very happy with is the one that we have with KMC Solutions. And this this company and this team has been so resilient in the face of the global pandemic that has been happening. And I'm very excited to introduce somebody who will not only tell us a little bit about how they've managed to do it, but somebody who can explain, hopefully for all of us, what it would take for us to really soldier through the coming year. Would like to introduce Greg Kittleson. He is one of the co-founders of Kittleson and Carpo Consulting, KMC Savills, and KMC Solution. He is also an investor to Xenia, to Sprout. And we believe that, I've come to know Greg for a few years now, and I know that he dabbles into things that he knows that he could really make a change in. And KMC Solutions, at KMC Solution, we have been working for the last couple of years, and I've seen the drive that they've been trying to extend support to entrepreneurs here in the Philippines. We believe that Greg and his team could really help transition a lot of the entrepreneurs that are watching here today. And I know that Greg is going to be able to provide us with insight to stay resilient and to be ahead of the curve, to not just survive, but also thrive in the coming years. So I'd like to give the floor to Greg, who is joining us all the way from Spain. Thank you so much for making time. And I am excited for everybody to hear how we can inspire the audience that's here today. Hi, Greg.
Hi, so thank you very much. I wanted to thank Impact Hub and DTI for allowing me to speak at this wonderful virtual event. Thank you. So I'm going to go right ahead and dive into my presentation. I wanted to speak about entrepreneurship and leadership, basically from startup to scale up. So I've been in the Philippines for 18 years, co-founded a number of companies, and have invested and advised in a number of companies. Some of those companies which have been able to kind of utilize the network and the infrastructure of KMC Savills, and Kittleson and Carpo Consultant, and scale up with some of our help. So as you can see in my slides, Kittleson and Carpo Consultant, KMC Solutions, Sprout, Xenia, and KMC Savills, and I'll speak a little bit about all of them. So the initial companies we started, the first one was actually Kittleson and Carpo Consulting, which was a company, or is a company, that services foreign companies setting up and doing business in the Philippines. With the boom of the IT BPO industry, a lot of foreign companies were coming into the country and needed all types of services to get started and to maintain their company. As time went on, very quickly, a lot of those companies wanted office space or wanted flexible workspace, what we called back then seat leasing, serviced office, and sometimes coined today as flexible workspace or co-working space. So these are the initial companies that we started. I've had 1 to 2 founders, co-founders in them. And the more recent, the kind of new tech startup. So one is Xenia, a health and wellness on-demand app, and the other one is Sprout, an online payroll and HR system. Everything here in the Philippines. So a lot of people ask me, Greg, how did you get started? How did you find these great business partners you have? And I always looked at selecting business partners as having to have the 4 main pillars. And one would be highly intelligent, high integrity, of course, strong work ethic, and high EQ. And the high EQ is something that I think is overlooked a lot of times. Being a leader, you need to have high IQ. Managing people, leading people, it's very, very important. And then we move on to the management selection. So as myself and my 2 co-founders started the company, wore a lot of hats, then it was time to select management. And we took the same principles as selecting the business partners into the management selection. So wanted to make sure we hired people that were experts in their field, whether it was finance, operations, technology, marketing, and then what would or how they would complement the CEO or the other co-founders. Essentially, these experts, this management, doing things that we couldn't do, but at the same time, we as founders continue to do things that we did better than the management or what we were experts in. So all very important when selecting a management team. A lot of people ask, okay, you've had success with these 3 companies and these startups that you're involved in now. What were some of the failures and challenges? And I think when it comes to hiring, when we started Kittleson and Carpo Consulting about 13 years ago, it was myself and attorney Amanda Carpo. We never thought we'd hire even 1 employee, but obviously we did. And between the 3 companies, we turned that into over 2,000 employees. But I would say the initial mistake that my partner Amanda and I made was, bad initial management, who we kept too long. So hiring the wrong person is one thing, but keeping them for too long when they should go is another thing in itself. So once we kind of got rid of the initial, which would have been middle management, that wasn't working out. In general, moving throughout the company in the first few years, we did not hire strong enough and fast enough. As it says, after hiring, we created the services or department instead of before. So a lot of times we would create a service, provide that service to the clients, market that service, but without having a real strong team or management in place. Got over that pretty quickly. And then moving forward, whenever we started a new service or management, new service or product, we made sure we had exceptionally strong management in place. So KMC Savills was a bit different. This was a second company that came about. We hired really strong talent from the beginning. So the first hires were rock stars, and of course, still with the company today. So they were able to move up. I mean, they started well over 10 years ago, about 12 years ago. Were somewhat young, had no management experience, but really were able to rise in the ranks and now essentially manage the company today. So creating these leaders that can grow with the company and then become leaders after that. So the larger company, KMC Solutions, which again is our flexible workspace company, serviced office, co-working space, and staff leasing. So a lot of people ask, what would you have done differently? So given the rate and the speed of KMC Solutions and the growth we had, we were always profitable from the beginning. But looking back, we should have grown a lot faster. And then how could we have done that? Well, there was a lot of opportunity to add more offices, take on more space, build out those spaces. But with this type of business, it's very, very capital intensive. So what should have we have done? Well, raise money much faster, which would have allowed us to take on more office space faster, take on more market share at the time. The demand and the opportunities were always there. So hence, we could have done it a lot faster had we raised money faster. So how to dodge those potential failures and challenges. As I mentioned before, hire up and pay for talent before you need it. Decide who you need, decide who you want on the bus in order to move forward. And by doing that, you want to hire the best people possible. So sometimes you're going to pay a little bit more. But by hiring the best people possible, instead of hiring mediocre people, they're able to do more and add to the positive impact of the company. So develop leadership within. And I think this is very doable in the Philippines. The Philippines has a very ambitious workforce that wants to lead. So we were able to hire within when needed, develop within and have those people grow with the companies. Now, there are certain situations and positions where we needed very experienced management within the industries that we were involved in and had to hire from outside. But typically, we always look to hire within first. As I mentioned before, cut bad employees quickly. This is extremely important. If somebody's not working out, if they do not fit within the company culture, they might be good from a skill set perspective. Maybe they're good with clients, what have you. Maybe they're technical, but if they're not getting along with the other employees and not getting along with the management of the founders and causing more problems than they are good, you need to cut them quickly. And when you do cut them quickly, you don't look back. So as I mentioned before, raise funds when needed. Do not wait. If you need the funds, raise them. Raise as much as you need. Raise a little bit more than you need. Again, you're going to need them to hire the proper management and to build out quickly. So the secret to our successes. The first one, during the startup phase with Kittleson and Carpo Consulting, we started with internet marketing. We saw that again, back about 13 years ago, not a lot of companies, not a lot of law firms or consulting firms, accounting firms, recruitment firms were utilizing internet marketing. So we were able to do that and able to gain quickly market share. And a lot of the market share we gained initially were smaller companies, but as you build your brand, as you move up the ranks, you're able to get more notoriety and then able to attract those larger clients. Two, we listen to our clients. This is very specific with all the companies here. We gave them the exact services that they need. So foreign companies coming into the country needed all the services that we currently provide. So we're able to provide those services to them at the time that they were asking for them. We were able to kind of create this ecosystem we have here and cross-sell between the different companies. Companies coming in through Kittleson and Carpo needed incorporation and startup services. Some of them needed larger offices like the call centers and BPOs. And then some of them needed just small office spaces or flexible workspace, serviced office, co-working. And that's how KMC was able to partake in that ecosystem. And again, doing the cross-selling from company to company. So during scale up, so I talked about startup, what worked. Scale up, we were able to assemble a diverse executive team, expats, local, male and female. So if you read anything about management books today, a diverse board, a diverse management team is more needed now than it ever has been. So again, ours is a beautiful combination of male, female, expats, and locals. Depending on the position, sometimes we hire, we find a strong local employer management, and sometimes it's foreign. It really depends on who we come across. Create strong company culture as the organization scales. As I mentioned before about cutting employees that don't fit into the company culture, it is essential to build up this company culture as the company starts to scale. So when you initially start, you're a few people in one office working together, maybe up to say 30 people. But as you start going from 30, 50 to 100 and over 100, company culture becomes more essential than it was in the past. People have to get along. People all have to be working together. You have to have that hierarchy in management where you build these leaders that are able to lead the next generation coming up. There has to be positive energy within the office. The employees have to not only believe in the industry, not only believe in the company, not only believe in the founders, but believe in the people that are above them, to the side of them, and below them. So with KMC specifically and Kittleson and Carpel Consultant, we have a diverse board. Initially, it was the founders that were making all the decisions, the three of us. Once we were partially acquired and or took investment, we created a regional board where we have very, very experienced board members coming out of Singapore. And, these are entrepreneur and or very strong executive types with deep executive experience, more than the three founders have had. So how did we, as founders in the executive team and the board, kind of share responsibilities and take on challenges and figure out who should be doing what? Well, once the board went into place, say with KMC Solutions, we were really able to kind of segregate our directions within the company or our task. If you look at the board and the CFO of KMC Solutions, the strategy is a lot done by the finance team, the regional partnerships, regional expansion and acquisition. So these are the things that the board and the CFO are focused on. Myself, as one of the co-founders, I'm strongest with creativity, anything relating to marketing, branding, design of our products, services, how they're marketed, but also interior design of our spaces. That had always kind of captured my attention. That's my passion. That's what I'm best at. Other co-founder, Michael McCullough, he's always been very focused on growth, operations, expansion, and technology. So having a co-founder, which is really pushing the business forward, at the same time understands technology, because KMC Solutions is not a tech company, but it's very much tech enabled. So having that co-founder that understands that, able to drive that, is very important to us. The other co-founder, attorney Amanda Carpo, expert on tax and legal. So we have these different entities and clients coming from different parts of the world. So she's able to really provide that sound tax and legal advice. So moving on to the tech startups, what are the secrets to the success of Xenia? So first of all, what is Xenia? Xenia is a mobile app for health, wellness, and medical in the Philippines. It first started out as providing therapeutic massage service to the home and to the office. Quickly, we moved in to some more wellness services, and then moved into the medical and health, if you will. Started initially with flu vaccinations. This is all in Metro Manila, again, to the home or to the office. Flu vaccinations, blood testing. But how was Xenia able to pivot quickly. And what is the secret to the success? Well, develop superior technology and products while delivering quality services which have created massive barrier to entry. Xenia is very much a tech company. There's many layers of the tech, which again, you really have to be an expert and have many, many years of software development and app development in order to create such a massive amount of tech. So when the pandemic hit in March, Xenia already had a very strong platform, the tech, and also delivering essentially nursing services to the home, again, which were the flu vaccinations and the blood testing. So quickly able to start developing and delivering the COVID testing, all types of COVID testing to the home and to the office, as well as corporate health product and solution for offices and companies within Metro Manila. So that's going very well. So a very good example of how a company, I wouldn't say pivot, but was able to add very strong services during the pandemic, which have been needed during the pandemic and which will be needed post-pandemic. So Sprout Solutions, again, this is the online HR and payroll solutions provider for the Philippines. This is a great example of how the CEO, Pat Gentry, and his team were able to really listen to customers. They were constantly getting customer feedback on what the customers wanted for this HR and payroll product. As you know, in the Philippines, there's all different types of ways different formulas to come up with payroll, given the IT BPO industry, night differentiator, holidays, and things like that. So the company was able has been able to deliver on all of these different types of services within inside the HR and payroll. There's one other company I wanted to speak about, which is great example of pivoting during the pandemic, which is Rebel. So Rebel is a health and wellness app here in the Philippines. So Rebel started back in September with their launch, and their launch was an app for wellness and fitness with local celebrities. So you can go on their app, download it, and then actually do workouts with local celebrities. This app was introduced about mid-September. It's already had 150,000 downloads, over 100 users, and 250,000 workouts. The interesting thing about Rebel is that it was going to start out as a low-cost gym. So the founding team came to us, myself and another founder of KMC said, listen, do you want to invest in this? And being guys that have always utilized the gym, then looking at the opportunity for a low-cost gym, which was very much tech-enabled for the Philippines, we thought was a great idea. So we invested in it. Boom, right after that, when the initial gym was just starting to break ground to be built out, the pandemic hit, all gyms closed for who knows how long. The company quickly pivoted and said, okay, we're going to do an app, a workout app, but with local celebrities for the Philippines. So again, a company that pivoted during the pandemic, which has gone exceptionally well. This is a very successful app in the Philippines and a great story of pivoting. So thank you very much. That is my presentation. I look forward to partaking in any panels and questions in the future.
Hi, Greg. Before I cue into the panel, I think it would be good to dive a bit deeper and dive deep into some of the things that you mentioned, because I think a lot of the insights that you had mentioned is something that's going to be critical for everybody. But so I think we're gonna summarize what we've learned from your topic in the panel later. But I just wanted to ask you, in the time that you've spent in the Philippines, what do you think is critical for startups and entrepreneurs in general to thrive, not just survive, but thrive in the Philippines, given the many, challenges that it poses?
Well, there's two types of founders in the Philippines, right? There's the local Filipino founder, and then there's the, let's say, expat local, if you will.
Mm.
And I think it's the, say, expat local in the local Filipino in the Philippines, which has an easier job because there are a lot of challenges in the Philippines, and it is bureaucratic. And we do have this challenge with traffic and getting to the office. Dealing with registering a company, getting permits, things like that is somewhat challenging. There are a lot of products, services, which are somewhat tech enabled, especially with the gig economy, where there is no law around this saying that you can or cannot do this service.
Yeah.
So it really is essential to have a strong solution for handling these kind of legal challenges, if you will, that are going to come up. So my advice to entrepreneurs and startups is get really good lawyers, get lawyers who deal with, let's say, tech-enabled companies or tech companies, startup companies. If you're dealing with the gig economy, really understand that it's about legal in general, the incorporation. It's about labor law, tax law, things of that nature. So you really want to kind of have your ducks in a row and your advice there when it comes to the legal aspect. Of course, hiring would be hiring is a challenge anywhere, especially when it comes to people involved in tech. There's just simply a lack of developers, front end, back end, in the whole world, not just in the Philippines. So you need to take that into consideration. So one of the very positive things about the Philippines is the economy is booming. It has been booming for the last 20 years. It will continue to boom. This is not just Asia. This is Southeast Asia, and it's the Philippines time for the Philippines. So there is a lot of opportunity there to take advantage of. So again, hiring or coming up with the co-founder groups, selecting those is essential, and then also selecting those initial hires or management team.
Right, and agree. And I'll push a little further and ask, what do you consider to be the greatest lesson that you've learned just in the last, especially in the last year? Yeah, considering the COVID happening and the pandemic, having to face it. What do you think is the greatest nugget that you believe will that our the audience who are listening here right now could learn from?
Well, okay, so in general, pre-pandemic, what did I learn the most? Again, listening to your clients or potential customers, what they want, what they need, or finding that pain point, how you can help them. And that's kind of obvious in entrepreneurship, and looking for that opportunity. But what did I learn? Having that strong management team, having that, depending on how far you are from scale up to startup, having those strong initial hires, that middle management, and then that upper management, and getting along with them and getting to all kind of steer in the same direction and go along with you, and having that positive relationship with that team is essential. And I think it really is one of the secrets to our success, is that company culture from the beginning. The founders, got along very well with the expats that we hired, with the, local workforce that we hired. We really are a family. Everybody loves working together. We created that real positive atmosphere, and I think that's really essential. If you're working together with people and people are not getting along, or they don't believe in the founders, or they don't believe in whoever their boss is, it's just simply not going to work out. So having that positive energy, getting along, is essential. And then with the pandemic, it's very interesting because I'm involved in multiple companies, and some of those companies had to pivot in order to be successful. Some of them had to add additional services in order to be successful, because you don't know when your previous services or initial services are going to go back online. So in the case of, say, Kittleson and Carpo Consultant, well, we assist foreign companies mainly setting up and doing business in the Philippines. Foreigners can't enter the Philippines at the time, now. So that really somewhat hinders our business. If you're looking at KMC Solutions, well, we still offer serviced office. We still offer flexible workspace. However, a lot of people are not going to the office, or they're not coming into the CBDs. So now we're able to create this kind of home product, Casa by KMC, where we go into the client's employees' homes, provide the infrastructure, the hardware, and the software in order for them to effectively work from home, but also access our offices, which are close to their home. So if you live around Cavite, Laguna, and you used to come to Makati or BGC to the main office, well, you can access the KMC office in Alabang. That's one example there. And then again, if you look at Xenia, wow, I mean, they were delivering service to the home, but a lot of the houses or the villages or the apartments or condos did not allow people to enter. So now you can't deliver to the service to the home, as well as to the office, because people weren't in the office. So within that time, it gave Xenia the ability to focus on development and delivering future product and service for COVID testing and other health, wellness, and medical, which is now the economy is open back up. There's more transportation. You can go into villages and condos, and Xenia is able to provide all of those services. And then again, with Rebel, they completely shifted from a business model, which was very physical, to essentially an online app.
Right. And before I wrap up, I just want to say I have taken the antigen test from Xenia and used it to go to Puerto. And your masseuse are here in my house every other night. Not kidding. Because my building actually allows it. But that's the major point that you stressed. I think entrepreneurs will find a way to kind of roll with the punches, right? And find a way to kind of curb it. And I think thank you so much for everything that you've shared. We look forward to hearing more from how KMC and all of the companies that you're a part of will pivot, and how it will also lead the transition of a lot of the startups here in the Philippines. And I always say this, by the end of 2020, we look back and see who have survived. And I think, and that's something, and we care for each other, look out for how else we can help the rest of the community. So it's really good to know that there are resilient startups and companies in the Philippines that could provide some sort of inspiration to the rest of the ones who are having a hard time. So thank you so much, Greg. I hope you have a good rest of the day. I know it's just starting for you there. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay. And I'm here to open the panel that is going to be is largely going to tackle on the topic of what Greg basically kind of started for us, right? And I'd like to call the panelists. First of all, I just want to say, in the light of the typhoon right now, I'm happy that we're able to be represented across the Philippines. I know that we have our panels are composed of entrepreneurs from not just in Manila but outside, and it's really cool to know that we're transcending the work that the community that we represent does. Diego, do I introduce? Yes. Okay, I will introduce. Okay, call them. Okay. We will, first of all, joining us back in the panel is Greg Kittleson, again, who is the one of the founders of KMC Savills, KMC Solutions, and an investor to a couple of the resilient startups that we have today. Hi, Greg. Welcome back to the panel.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And next, I'd like to call on, hang on. Where is that? Fro Oliva. He's the co-founder of Apollo. His experience as a long-term strategist for financial models in the SME market um, has allowed him to really co-found Apollo Academy.
Hi,
Hi,
Sas.
Fro.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
And our third speaker is Joe Villablanca, who is the founder of Holy Fit. Hi, Joe. He's
Hey, hey.
actually calling us from KMC.
Yes,
A
Greg. Let's.
NetPod. He's a
We're
NetPod.
also
He's
on the
alone.
Rebel app. Me and my girlfriend,
Mm,
my sister.
Jose,
cool.
I love it. I love it. We got to get you on all our apps, all our services.
Yeah, I was chatting while you were talking here, so let's talk about Zenya maybe another time.
Sure,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay, and then I'd like to call on Mary Ann Daroca, um, who is a serial entrepreneur and connoisseur owner of Cafe Gloria. And I know you're based in Iloilo, right?
Hi, yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet everyone here, and it's good that the government is doing something for what's happening right now.
They are. I'm sure the government is on their toes trying to figure out how to support us. And I would like to call on Lemuel Hovelar, who is the co-founder of paperclick.ph. Hi, who
Hi,
is calling
Stas.
us from Cebu.
That's right. That's right. Hailing from
Awesome.
Cebu. Thank you for having me.
It's first of all, thank you so much to all of you for tuning for taking the time to be with us, because I think a big part of what we're all trying to figure out is how to not just survive but also lend some support to the rest of the community here in the Philippines. So I'd like to just start off some questions. Does anybody have, taking off from what Greg had mentioned, perhaps we can do focus out a little bit and hear from you guys how you've been doing amidst this crazy and very unpredictable year. Yeah, Fro, do you
Okay.
want to start us off?
Sure. So I'm actually here representing PLDT Global, but for our future viewers, I also do consultancy for the startup and SME sector. And saying that, definitely the pandemic has changed a lot of things, business wise, economy wise. And industry experts say that um, it will take another 18 months before things kind of normalize. Right? Coming from what Greg mentioned earlier, a big part of what's happening right now is how a lot of companies are pivoting during this pandemic, right? Both in the startup scene and in the SME scene. And a big part of it is definitely, strict financial management, right? A lot of people, I've actually seen a lot of people who have become opportunistic during this time, which is very, very good and very, very exciting for the landscape as well.
Right. And okay, it is. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Could we hear from Lemma? How are things there in Cebu? And in general, how has your business been coping?
Um, I'm actually quite excited to well, I, it's kind of hard to say this, but I'm actually enjoying what's happening in the business sector in Cebu right now because I don't know. I've been doing internet marketing for more than 12 years now, and it's just so sad to actually. I mean, I've always been baffled actually by the fact that we are the social media capital of the world, and yeah, 90% of businesses don't have an online presence here up until
Exactly.
this pandemic, where I'm seeing like everybody just trying their best to jump on board and be online or at least be on social, which is actually free. It's it should be a no-brainer actually. And yeah, with the pandemic, everyone's doing that, and weird to say, I'm enjoying how things are going. with the environment, because this is the world that I've been living in for more than 12 years. And for my businesses though, yeah, we've been hit as well with like the rental business. So I have a rental business on the side as one of my passive income. So when all the people like fled the metro and went back to the provinces, of course nobody's renting, and yeah, it got hit. So one thing that is like a takeaway from this pandemic is as much as possible we should always have like multiple income streams, just just to actually have a buffer in case something like this could actually happen. It's like I know that it's it's like nobody ever expected this to happen, although many have predicted it. If you go like you go dig into like shows in Discovery and things like that, but I mean, for me personally, I never thought it's gonna actually go to this scale. I thought it was just gonna be something like flare ups, the way the H1N1 happened, but not at a global pandemic scale. So yeah,
Right.
that's all I can.
Agree. Okay. And from Cebu, I guess we can ask how Iloilo is doing before we circle back to Manila. And
Hi,
hi,
everyone.
Marianne.
Yeah, here in Iloilo, I think we're very lucky that we have a very strong support system from the private sector. So when everything was happening, I think you've heard that our city has been known like the Wakanda of the Philippines. It's basically because that we know that we can't really get a lot of the support from the national scale, because this is happening all over the world. So when the pandemic hit, what the our local private businessmen did was to get together with the LGU and offer support in whatever that they can give. So on the business side, like me right now, I have a cafe. I also have a nail spa, which is located in the mall. One of the things that we also had to face was, the decrease in the mall foot traffic. It's basically zero. So there are a lot of learnings, as I agree with Greg and also what Lemuel told us about being prepared. Sometimes you think that you're prepared, and we thought that we could get over this in just a few months, but right now it's extending to a whole year. So it's all about resilience and whatever you can do to, change your business in a way that you scale up in another, in another sense. So that's what's happening right here.
Right, agree. Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope Iloilo is thriving along. Joe, how are things been from your industry, especially because I know gyms have been really impacted. In fitness and wellness industry has been impacted given the pandemic. How have you guys been surviving?
We've been good. Obviously, it hit us hard because of social distancing. The first few clients were that canceled or stopped, group classes and stuff like that were the international companies, and then we just saw the trend. But we adapted. I think at first I was saying I was lucky because I partnered up with someone, so we started selling fitness equipment, and we did really, really well, surprisingly, and we came in late. But I think I found a good partner because they knew how I worked, and I worked really hard. So I don't think it was luck. I think it was just not to brag, right? But just I guess they saw my business acumen. So we did well, and we shifted online with our clients. So we did a lot of fitness classes online. We started doing B2C, working with, looking into definitely B2C clients. And
Right.
I think after the pandemic, we'll be doing really well because we'll have more streams of incomes. So, which is great. So I think as entrepreneurs, we know how to see the silver lining, right? The worst thing that could happen to you, like for example, when I first lost money, was the best thing that happened to me because I learned from my mistakes. So
Okay, thank you. I think we can all appreciate that insight that when things go, crisis is always it always means opportunities, right? For especially for entrepreneurs.
Definitely.
So I'll open it to everybody here, and I think the question that we wanna kind of, I guess, get into is for everybody watching this. And thinking of rebooting and redesigning their models, what do you think should be the things that they have to consider? I mean, Greg earlier mentioned how important it is to have teams, but in this time where everything has shifted, how people work, how people clock in and out, how people are, I guess, kind of, evaluated in their performance, right? What would be the things that entrepreneurs should look out for when trying to pivot forward? Anyone can answer.
My turn.
Phil, go ahead.
Okay, so when it comes to the topic of rebooting during this pandemic, during this lockdown, um, like you said earlier, says during crisis, there's always opportunity, and entrepreneurs always thrive during a crisis, right? And from the past 6-8 months, I've seen a lot of companies, mostly founded by my friends, how they've changed their strategies to be more opportunistic during this lockdown, and not just to survive, but really do well considering everything. So I actually have a few examples, right? So number one is, well, I'll take the example for PLT Global, where considering that we work a lot with OFW communities, we created web shows where there is both a lifestyle segment and a radio talk show segment. So there's a lot of interaction, which allows OFWs to be more connected here in the Philippines, and as well as get advice, from legal advice, financial advice, and stuff like that. Right. Other than that, I have a friend's company of mine. What they do is they put up networks and associations for logistics companies, and their business is heavily reliant on conferences. So obviously, conferences are not, doable right now because of the pandemic and social distancing. What the founders did is very good, actually, where they actually took video classes with Nas Daily, right? And they used their experience there to create more videos for their networks. And then from there, they went on to produce online conferences that are actually very, very interactive. And by doing so, they are able to fulfill the biggest value prop for their members, which is to enable their members to network with different companies and generate more business, which is very good, especially during this lockdown. Right? And my final example would be another company called Bootleg, CIA Bootleg Manila. They are a brand and creative strategy firm, and what the founders did is they actually did a lot of online classes during the start of the pandemic, which actually allowed them to engage with more companies. So much so that right now 2020 is actually their banner year versus 2019 and 2018. So, just to wrap it up, it's really that mindset of being opportunistic, and considering that the behavior has changed, everybody's going online. So you really have to go online. Online's a big, big factor of going through this situation, right? And developing strategies and partnerships within that ecosystem.
Anyone else want to jump in? Greg? You're on mute, though.
As I mentioned during my talk, with the various companies we've had to pivot, and I guess talking about KMC Solutions is we're in the office space business, and when the pandemic hit, and still up until now, a lot of people are not going to the office. So how are we able to pivot from that when we have well over 15,000 seats or desks? We're in 26 different locations, and you have clients and their employees that used to go into a specific office, usually to their headquarters. So again, we were able to create this product called Casa by KMC, where we go into the employees' homes of the clients and set up infrastructure, software, hardware, and allow them to work comfortably and effectively from their home, but also accessing our offices, which are near their home, as opposed to going to the corporate office or their headquarters in, say, Makati, Ortigas, or BGC. So that was one thing. And again, if you look at Xenia, Xenia has this massive technology platform delivering product and service to the home that stopped, during the pandemic. And then there were other services needed, which was COVID testing. So Xenia has been effectively developed and able to deliver COVID testing to the home, and not just to the home, to the office. So if you're an individual in the home and you want COVID testing for yourself, you can do it, but you can add the profiles to all your family members and your domestic workers, your domestic employees to that platform, test them all. Or as an individual, you can get tested from the office that you're working in. But there's also, Xenia has a corporate health feature, which works directly with companies, which is able to, kind of monitor and test all of their employees. So that was a very, I wouldn't say pivot, but a strong add-on service addressing the needs during the pandemic, which is COVID testing.
Great. Okay, go ahead. Who wanted to jump in and weigh in on that? I think it's also understanding very much, because I think, Greg, what you essentially, as you mentioned earlier when you gave us some tips about what entrepreneurs should really look out for, is that you knew your customers, right? And you knew what was going to be needed in the forthcoming months. So does anybody else want to weigh in on that? Hi, Marianne, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I think it's true. It's very important to know your clients and your customer base and their needs, because in our case, like since people can't go to us, we have to go to them. So before we did it, in order for us to do it, we had to revisit our operating cost, considering everything, being a mall-based business, how do you go out and, change everything. So here in Iloilo, what most of us did was, for the restaurant industry, we came out and, went into the services like used Food Panda, Grab, in order to offer the services. The hotel industry here, they got very, very creative, because since we lost a lot of tourists, they converted some of the rooms to accommodate LSIs. And the other 3-star hotels, what they did was, whenever someone tested positive, they have to go to a facility. But if you can afford something, what others did here is just to check in a hotel, they charge a certain rate. So I agree with Greg, what you do is, in order to do a pivot, it's like you have to give an add-on services. Nail spas here, salons here, the same is happening. They had to invest on PPEs in order for them to go to the clients' homes and give the service. So that's about it.
Right. Lamo or Joe, did you want to add anything to that? I guess moving forward, especially given the current situation where we still really don't know how this will affect everything next year, right? I think maybe if nobody has anything more to add there, maybe the question that I'd like to throw in the mix, and because we have an audience here also in this wonderful webinar and online event is really brought to us by the government, right? The IDOST, the ICT. So my question for you guys as entrepreneurs, what do you guys think would be what would be helpful for you as a business owner that the government can do? What other things in the next few weeks, months, going into 2021 that you feel we can go to the government in partnership and in collaboration with, right? Because basically we're in this partnership with them. So what would you say to the government right now as to how to help us move forward? What would you need in terms of support? Anyone can answer.
I think I can go first
Go
because
for
I have
it.
been aligning with
Great.
we have been aligning a part of the what do you call this, the board of we have a Iloilo Hotel and Restaurant Association. So I'm
Right.
always in meetings. LGU would always call us like tomorrow
Mm.
I'm going to have an alignment meeting. So one of the problems that we encountered with regard to the government or the policies that they give out, some are well thought of and some are not so well thought of. So Manila would have a different take on it.
Yeah.
The national would have a different take on it. For policies, especially for those who have are based in the malls, who have a physical store, we are being ruled by IATF, and then from IATF, all the policies and the protocols they go through the local. So it would be a great help if all of these protocols would be aligned properly, because there are some times that the rules of IATF doesn't really apply to a local one. So it's up to the local on how they address it. So things like that. So for me, I think I'd like to thank the government for giving out support,
Yeah.
like DOLE, the Department of Labor, they give out the camp, and they're coming up with camp 2 for employees.
Right.
And then for we in Iloilo right now, we're so lucky that our LGU and our mayor is very proactive. So before the pandemic hit, or even during the pandemic, we would always have an alignment meeting with the local,
Yes.
and then that's about it. So
I totally
yeah.
Go ahead, Fro.
I totally agree with Mary Ann, where the government and its different departments are actually doing a lot to help businessmen during this pandemic. And I think it's very important that communication is properly transferred from area to area, city to city, department to department,
Yes,
right, Marianne?
that's so true.
Right?
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah. So saying that, the government has been doing a lot of help. From the financial side of things, I know that it's already mandated that banks can only give. They already lowered their interest rates so that people using credit cards, they can use it more efficiently and they won't be burdened by loans, right? And on the other end of things, they're also giving away, not give away, but they're also offering pretty pretty good business loans, especially by Land Bank, right? And then the DTI and IATF has been slowly opening different industries, from restaurants to gyms to barber shops to even online places. So I think the most important thing there is to make sure that the communication is properly done, because sometimes I go to an area and the restaurant is full, which it's a big no-no right now, right? But we have to also understand that these places also want to make money, right? So it's a balancing act.
Right. Anything else? Do you want to add, Greg? In light of moving forward, what else would be helpful?
I mean, I think all governments, not just in the Philippines, it's a very, very hard job that they have, and a very big decision to make. Is it economy, or is it health, or is it somewhat in between? And how and when do you open up the economy? In the Philippines, obviously, it's essential for the economy to be opened up. There's a lot of people that essentially live week, if you will. So if you take 1 week of income away from them, that could very much affect themselves and their family. So essential for the economy to open back up, but of course with health measures, getting full transportation running again, but again somewhat social distancing, of course wearing the mask, and I guess in the Philippines we wear the face shield as well. For that extra protection. So, opening up transportation, I think is essential, and then allowing access into other areas, whether they're villages or buildings, because I believe some buildings they still don't. Some residential buildings still don't allow guests in condos, and there's actually some buildings themselves that are not fully functioning, or the admin is somewhat making it challenging for their tenants or the employees of their tenants to access that building. So, that's where maybe government needs to step in a bit more. Come up with essentially a policy for all buildings, residential and commercial, so we can help open up the economy a bit more and allow free human flow, if you will, in and out of facilities.
Right. And I think being mindful of time, I guess I'll just ask everybody's final words to everybody watching us here. I think, again, we're entrepreneurs, and it's in our DNA to hustle through and move forward. But any final words to everybody who's watching this, who are needing inspiration given this difficult time? So we'll start with Joe.
I would say just don't rely on I don't know. Blank right now. Just hustle, I guess. Sorry. Just stay consistent. Like when you asked me the last question earlier about the government, I'm like, I don't know. I just do my own thing. I don't really. Maybe I don't know about economics that much, but I just do my own thing and do what I can control, and just. A lot of people, they complain too much about things that they can't control. So just focus and just do what you can do. So I think that's what made me successful. But obviously, I'm still a small business, but there's definitely a lot of room for growth. So stay humble, stay focused, stay healthy, because that way you can keep on grinding.
Well put. Lemo?
Yeah, I have to agree with what Jose just said. So yeah, focus on the things that you actually have control of. If we can't go out, then stay home. If you can't work with whatever it is that your main hustle, then maybe you can check out like online classes, and see if you can diversify into something that's more relevant in these trying times. And lastly, consider this as a setback. So it's like if you think about a slingshot, you can't really propel the slingshot if you don't like pull it back. So yeah, just keep hustling. Don't this isn't the end, that's for sure. So just consider this as a setback, and better days are gonna be coming.
Thank you. Marianne, do you wanna final words?
Okay, my take. Yes, I think my final take about what's happening right now is that the only thing that's constant is change. So it's how we adapt to the change, and how fast we move, and how to look at things in a way that we have to be positive no matter what. We're all here. We're trying to stay healthy. We're trying to survive. And I hear a lot of billionaires tips right now. It's all about surviving and going through each day at a time. So adapting to change and thinking out of the box, or sometimes within the box, is very important. Thank you.
Right, agree. Pro? Thank you so much, Marianne.
So for me, I actually have 3 points. Number one, to all the entrepreneurs out there, take a look at your financials. You have to have a very stringent and pragmatic financial planning, financial strategy for all the startups there. Try to redefine your funding strategy to help you not just get through this situation, but even grow. Right? I know a few startups like Prosper now is actually doing focusing on this part. Second, you have to have some sort of online engagement, regardless. Even for traditional SMEs, even if it's it's either you go online, be a social seller, or take online classes to level up your skill sets and your knowledge. Why not? And number three is reframe your 5-year plan coming from this situation. And as an entrepreneur, we're always going to have that opportunistic mindset. So saying that, work on your 5-year plan based on what's happening right now and take it from there.
Okay. Greg, any final words?
I think now more than ever, it's essential to keep your ear to the ground. You really have to look at, given the pandemic, look at what the government's doing, look at the decisions that they're gonna make, look at the trends that are going on. Are the cases going up? Are the cases going down? What are other countries doing? What are other industries doing in other countries? So, more now than ever, we have to keep our ear to the ground, consume this information, in order to pivot in the right direction. So there's kind of small and short-term pivots, but you have to also take in consideration, do you need to do a long-term pivot, and how long does that take? And do you have the resources and the money to make that pivot, right? So that has to be in place. And then, if you are somewhat of a startup to a scale up and you have that solid team, again, I keep saying that great relationship that you have to have with your co-founders, with the executive team, with the management team, with employees, is essential. Communication now more than ever is essential. Keeping everybody motivated, keeping everybody happy, just having that strong relationship is important. And me in the Philippines for 18 years, having that strong positive relationship with my people, has really been one of the more rewarding parts or experiences I've had in the Philippines working. So I always want to stress that.
Thank you. I think that was truly all invaluable to what you just shared, and everything that you all mentioned. I'm sure that it will help guide everybody who's watching this. And to close this panel, we'd like to thank again, of course, the organizers of this year's Philippine Startup Week, the USC, DTI, the ICT, and Kubo. And we look forward to the strengthening of the community even more through these collaborations. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day and night and week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.